I'm bringing you down to a milkweed patch here. This is milkweed that grows right down on the edge of the farm here. And milkweed's a pretty easy, this is common milkweed, it's a pretty easy plant to tell apart. First of all, it has these opposite growing branches. It is not a branched, or I should say opposite leaves like so. It does not branch, which is really big. Don't take from one that's actually branching, though by the time they get to the pods, you're okay. You're not going to mistake it. It does have a couple poisonous lookalikes, but if you're going to the point where they've already got their pods on them, you're not going to mistake. But these branches, or these leaves, excuse me, come off opposite of each other, and if you break a leaf off, you get the milky sap, or this is a latex. That is where milkweed gets its name from. And milkweed in the spring and early summer gets these beautiful flowers, which are edible. You prepare them by dropping them into first one batch of boiling water, and then putting them into a second batch of boiling water, and usually that's enough. If you are very concerned about, see, the latex is poisonous, but you lose it in boiling water. So if you're really concerned, you can drop it into yet a third batch of boiling salted water. The third batch is you salt, and that's the one you eat. And then you put it with a little bit of butter, and they're really quite good. They have a sweet, kind of green bean flavor to them. And you can do the exact same thing with the pods and cook them up that way and just eat them as a vegetable. But what I like to do with them is pickle them, because, hey, I pickle everything. So the pods here, I like to get my pods, this comes from, you can kind of see, here's the flower, dying flower back here. The flower turns into these pods, and anyway, these are the pods that I'm going to pickle. As long as they're less than about 2 inches long, that's about all the longer I like to get them. I think there's some bigger ones over here. And once they get too big, now they're already starting to get, if I was to open this on the inside, it would already start being kind of a white fluffy mass. It's not actually fluffy in there, but the seeds are carried by the wind, and so they get these kind of fluffy things on them, and that's already happening inside here. And that does not make for a good pickle. So we're going to take more of the smaller ones here. And when I gather them, I do not take them all from one plant. I try, because I've got plenty of them. That way this plant will still have babies somewhere, along the line. Of course, if you're in a survival situation, that's different. We're going to lactose ferment these things, and I'll show you how to process them. Very easy to do. But I'm going to gather up some of these, and I'll take you back into the kitchen. So to process, sorry, dog's nose will be poking in from time to time. So to process, this is the dog I'm pet sitting actually right at this moment. These, it's very easy to do. What we're going to do is we're going to drop it in boiling water, and that's the most important thing to remember when you're pickling the milkweed pods. The milk in it is a latex. Latex is toxic to us. Nice thing about it is very easily removed by putting it in boiling water. If you put it in cold water and bring it to a boil, it will set the latex and you can't get it out. Then you have to just throw those things away. They're already gone. You have to drop it into boiling water. So get a pot of water boiling and just drop them in. That's where we're going to go next. Now they only have to boil for about a minute, but because this is, there's a lot of these in here. I actually probably should have done this in 2 batches, but I didn't. I stuck them all in one. We are going to let these boil just a little bit longer, and then I'm going to rinse them off, and then they'll be ready to be worked with. But if you do them in small batches, basically drop the pods in, bring them back to a boil, a nice rolling boil, let them set for single minute, and one single minute, see if I can say that correctly, and then rinse them off. I'm just going to do this a little longer because it's a big batch. Now that I've got it going, you can kind of see this here, this white foam on top, that's the latex that's come out. And you can see it comes out very easily in boiling water. So I'm going to drop this. These are done now. So I'm going to drop them into a strainer and rinse the foam this foam out. And get these things, they'll be ready to go. Okay, so what we've got here is we've got our milkweed pods all set and ready to go. I like the flavor of garlic. Anybody that knows me, if you actually read my pickled purslane blog, then you see that I usually use dill and garlic. I'm going to put the dill in later on because I want that to be fresh. But we're going to put the garlic in now because I like lactose fermented garlic. And I'm going to use something a little different. A friend of mine gave me one of these lids that has a fermentation lock, and I'll show you how that's done. I don't normally use that. Usually what I do is I put it into the jar and I weigh it down with a glass full of water, and you put that in and weigh down your thing so that it stays below your water salt mixture. So that's what I'm getting ready to do now. I'm heating up some water. This is a quart of water, and my measurements are not as exacting as other people's are. I use about a heaping teaspoon to every pint of water. This is a guesstimate. Some people may have exact measurements. Some people may be like, you have to do it this way, and that's fine. If you listen to me, I'm not really a big have to do it this way kind of person. I'm like, whatever works, works. To use is non-iodine salt because that keeps your pickles from discoloring. Now, if you live in Wisconsin and all you have is iodine salt, and that's all you have, and you can't afford to have 40 different kinds of salt, totally understand that. Use your iodine salt. It's not going to ruin your pickles. It just may make them a different color. If you close your eyes and eat them, they'll taste the exact same. Okay? So basically what I do is I kind of layer, well, I'm doing this one-handed, but I put a handful of them here, and then I put a garlic clove or 2 in, and then another handful, and that's basically what I do. And I'm still heating the water up. But anyway, I'm going to get this going here, and then I'll show that to you. But that's what I do, is I basically put a handful of garlic clove, You can use whatever flavoring you want to use. If you want to have just this as your pickles, that's fine. I know I like dill in mine too, but I don't like dill that goes through the fermenting. I don't want my dill to be lactose fermented. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this lactose fermenting here, and then about a week into it, because it takes about 2 weeks or so before I like the flavor. About a week into it, then I'll put some dill into it for the flavoring of the dill, so that you don't get that lactose fermented dill. But anyway, because I'm doing this one-handed and I like to do it with both hands, I'll be back in just a minute, and I'm going to get this going. Now, if you're going to do it with a glass holding or some kind of weight holding the pickles, you're fermenting things down below the water, you're going to need to stop right about here. So you've got plenty of space. And the reason for this is A, you're going to have to put the water up higher than your pickles. And then when you put the glass in there, it's going to displace your water. There's going to be... And if you get, if you stop here and then you fill it up to the top with water, then you put your glass in it, obviously you're going to have a mess. So about here is good. But I'm going to go a little bit further because I'm going to use a lid. I'm going to go just a little bit further. Okay, so then if you look here, you can see I've filled this up and I've poured the brine over it. And because I'm using one of these lids here, I have it filled very close to the top. If you're not, again, just put one second. Just put a glass of water in there to weight it down and keep everything from floating. Again, I can't do that because I've got it really full. So we're going to use one of these lids. A friend gave me a set of 3 of these, but you can go on Amazon and buy them. They're not cheap, which is why I've never used them before. But anyway, it's pretty much just like if you've ever made wine, you know how it works. You put your lid on, and I'm going to make it a little tighter. Then this goes into the hole, and if you look here, there's like a line. I know you're going to kind of be a little fuzzy, but you can kind of see that line there. If I hold it up against the dark of the stove, and you want to fill it. Most people say with boiled water. Since I got some boiled water right here, I'm going to use that because then that's sterile water. And you want to fill it up to that line. And I'm going to do that, and then I'll come right. So I've got the water filled up, and this is my opinion that I've seen with these things. It is better to underfill this a little bit than it is to overfill it. If you overfill it, see how this works is right at this moment you can see there's kind of a straight tube that goes right down into the thing, so air can go down and in. And then you put this thing in there, and that, with the water down here, keeps it sealed. But this thing here has little holes in it, and as the gases build up, it pushes this thing up high enough for the gases to kind of blurp out the side, and that's the scientific word for it, blurp. Okay, perhaps not. But anyway, the gases to kind of come out and be released. And if you put it up too high, this thing can't rise up. The little bobber thingy in there can't rise up high enough, because we're also going to put the cap on it. The little bobber thing can't rise up high enough to release the gases. If you put it up too high, or if you like it higher, then probably your best bet is to just simply not put the cap in on top of it. But anyway, here we go. We have these things underneath a saltwater solution. They will begin to lactose ferment. They can release gases. Things can get in, or things can get out. Things can't get in. The garlic is going to start flavoring it and give it a little bit more richer flavor, but of course the lactose fermenting will give it the most flavor. And this is just another wild edible here, and an easy one. It seemed to be a little bit harder trying to explain it than it does for me just to do it. I can do it in like 15 minutes, and here it took it probably close to 45 minutes trying to explain it. But anyway, this is going to be pickled milkweed pods, a little bit lactose fermented milkweed pods, and you can let them stay lactose fermenting for a very long time, sometimes for up to a year. I've seen pickle barrels out being lactose fermented, or you can always heat these things up to boiling, stick them in jars. That will stop the lactose fermenting, but then you have the pickles already done and ready to go in, be canned, and then they'll last longer. They'll stay on the shelves. Once they get canned and sealed, they can stay on the shelves until, one of the lids rusts through. But then you kill off the lactose fermenting, and that's kind of one of the reasons that we do this, because lactose fermenting is good for you. Eating things that are lactose fermented is good for you. It helps you aid in your digestion, and your immune system comes from your diet. Well, a good chunk of your immune system comes from your ability to digest. And eating things that are lactose fermented help keep that immune system strong. So we got these things going. In another couple weeks, we're going to test them, see if they taste good, and then we'll start munching on them.